Hi everyone, my name is Amy. Welcome to this short yin style yoga practice today where we're going to focus on opening up some of the muscles of the upper body, the shoulders primarily, and the upper back to kind of counter effect some of the things that happen as we sit and orient ourselves forward all day, maybe driving, maybe at a desk. So let's get right into it. If you happen to have yoga blocks, we'll be using 2 of them towards the end of the practice. But if you don't happen to have any yoga blocks, that's okay. You can grab hold of a blanket or 2 and we can roll those up when it comes time and utilize those instead of our yoga blocks. So let's get right to it. Beginning in child's pose. So coming to hands and knees, joining the big toes together, letting the knees fall out wide, and just sinking the hips back towards the heels. Extending the arms out in front of you as far as they can go, resting forearms down on the mat, and relaxing the forehead down to the floor. Just begin by taking a deep breath here in through the nose, and exhaling out of the mouth. Just letting the body start to settle into this pose. Letting the heart start to sink a little heavier towards the mat. Letting the hips get a little heavier towards the heels. Letting go of any sense of effort here. Just feeling the breath moving in the body. Allowing the shoulders just to begin to relax a little bit more, get a little heavier. And if we happen to have really tight shoulders today, feeling free to stay right where you're at. If we want a little bit more, we're going to start to slide the hands back and come on up to a table pose here. Keeping the hips stacked right over top of the knees. And now beginning to walk the hands forward. We're going to take a puppy pose. So walking the arms forward, keeping the hips stacked right over the line of the knees, and just melting the forearms down to the floor, relaxing the head right back down. And first, just settling into this first place. And then if we have a little bit more space, begin to sink the hips back towards the heels really subtly. Just feeling this traction. Letting the heart get a little heavier. And just beginning to notice again the rhythm of the breath. Remembering in all of our yin poses, we want it to be slightly uncomfortable, but not so much so that we can't maintain a nice rhythmic breath. Continue to allow the upper body to get a little heavier as time passes. Let's just take about 3 more breaths here. And slowly begin to make your way out of that pose, right into a cat pose, rounding the spine and dropping the head. And then finding a cow pose, dropping the belly, lifting the gaze. Coming back to a nice neutral position in the spine. And now let's take our right hand out to the right side. Really focus on here stability in the hips, keeping the navel hugging in, and also focusing on stability in that left arm. So pressing equally down into the ball of the thumb and the pointer finger. Imagine dialing your left thumb forward and really feel that left shoulder plug into the socket. And then keeping that neutral position in the hips here, taking your gaze over towards the right hand. As you inhale, begin to twist from the upper back. So we want the hips to stay exactly where they're at. And then as we exhale, thread the needle, taking that right arm all the way back behind the left, coming down on the right shoulder, the right temple. And just settling in here. Maybe gently pressing that right shoulder into the mat. Or you could even wrap that left hand behind your back, finding the crease of your right hip if you wanted to. Again, just notice the breath here. I'm not staying here too long in this pose, so just 3 more breaths. And gently releasing that left hand down under the left shoulder, swimming the right arm all the way back up in the air, and then just coming back down and resetting. And now really again pressing down, rooting down through that right hand as you float the left arm up in the air. Imagine dialing your right thumb forward, feeling that right shoulder plug into the socket, and then taking a peek at your left hand. As you inhale, raising that left arm all the way up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, threading the needle, taking left arm all the way back behind that right, and maybe again wrapping that right hand behind your back. Pressing the left shoulder into the mat, spiraling that right shoulder blade a little bit closer to the spine. And then just releasing that right hand down to the mat. Inhale, taking the left arm all the way back up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, dropping that left hand back down again. And now we're just going to bring our knees forward, maybe crossing at the ankles, and come to a seat. And here's where we're going to need to use our yoga blocks, or maybe a bolster if you happen to have one, or a blanket of any kind. If you have yoga blocks with you, we're going to use our first block on its second tallest level. So we're going to take that block and just lie it there on our mat, and have your second block somewhere nearby where you can reach it. Now if you're using a blanket, you're just going to want to roll that blanket up and use the blanket for support, and maybe a second blanket or even a pillow to go behind your head. So what we're going to do here is place a bend in our knees, soles of the feet on the mat, and placing this yoga block lengthwise across the bottom ribs. So you can even kind of feel in there. It's going to be just above the bottom ribs, really supporting you. So feeling free to kind of move around here until you feel like it's in a pretty good spot. And then our second block, or our pillow, is just going to go underneath our head. So we're going to lie back here, placing that block on any level that feels comfortable to you. And then knocking the knees in. We're just going to let our arms float out to the sides. Allow the eyes to close. And really begin to sink into the support of the blocks. Letting the shoulders be really heavy here. Just really allowing the heart to open. This is one of my favorite poses. I could probably sit here all day long. Just continuing to let gravity do the job for you. So no need to have any effort here. Simply letting the arms be heavy, letting the upper back rest on the support of the block, letting the weight of the head be really heavy. Allowing the rhythm of the breath to be steady. Maybe softening the jaw, relaxing around the eyes. This might be a really challenging pose for those of us that do work at a desk all day. So if at any time you need to come off, or maybe back down into a lower level, feel free to adjust and take exactly what you need. And so for our yin poses, we typically hold them anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. Sometimes a little longer. Just enough time for the body and the tissues to begin to adapt to the shape of the pose. And really to begin to affect some change. Continue to let the body sink heavy into the blocks for about 5 more breaths. Come out of this pose, especially if we were really tight, you're going to reach your hands down and catch hold of the sides of your mat just for a little extra support here. And then just really slowly begin to lift your head and come off of those blocks or bolsters or pillows the best way that you can, and move them out of the way. We're just going to lie back down onto our backs now and notice all of the effects of that very supportive back bend. And then just releasing the arms alongside the body, extending the legs forward. Beginning to wrap the shoulder blades underneath you and just allowing the arms to float away from you a little further than we're used to. Allow the eyes to close. And let's take a really deep breath here in through the nose. Exhale, sigh it out of the mouth. Enjoying these final few minutes, completely resting, really comfortably in Shavasana. Letting the body continually melt into the mat. Letting the breath return to its natural rhythm and pace. And if you're ready, we'll slowly slide the legs together and sweep the arms overhead. Give yourself a really nice deep stretch as you inhale. And as you exhale, just melting back into the mat. Slowly drawing the knees in towards the chest. Giving yourself a nice little hug. Rocking over to your favorite side. Or rocking straight up to seated. Joining your hands together when you're ready at the front of the mat, allowing the eyes to close. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. Namaste.